And there you have it. From the word masters, they be doing the things, they wordsmiths. They got books and things, they wordsmiths.
This whole song.
Well, I ain't seen both of y'all in a while, I can talk shit.
Pages, playing tetherball with sunbeams. Loved and started a concert in the kitchen. Loved and wrapped herself around us, like warm, creamed grits and black woman incense. Looking 10 years lighter than before. Skin the color of the pancake she just flipped, with the edges perfectly crisp, with her edges perfectly laid. Love got her scarf still intact and her silk robe to match, running on 4 hours of sleep, anticipating that extra shift she picked so I could go on the class trip. Love sits my plate in front of me with a forehead kiss and a song about heartbreak falling from her lips, and I know what love is without ever uttering her name, because I know her face and her voice, and when she sings to me, I never have to wonder. I always ask for an encore. I always know she's prepared. Again, I write a lot about love. And I also banter a lot during these poetry readings. Most people are probably like, why is she doing so much talking? I'm awkward. So there's that. So we have to sit through this together. But speaking of love, I was never very verbal about it outside of my writing. And I realized early on it was an easy way for me to communicate with my friends that I love them. So this is actually a piece that is a first draft of a poem about a friend breakup. I'm not quite fond of them. They hurt worse than anything else. And this one we just come out and it's very therapeutic. So again, it's the first draft. You may hear it later and be like, that's not how it sounded before. Don't tell anyone else. I miss you. Not once in a blue moon, but like every time someone utters a word that sounds like their name, like sky or cry, or breaking my lips apart to wonder if you miss me too. If you think about me during water sign full moons, or if the thought of dating a Gemini man still makes you laugh, cry like it used to, I miss you. The old you. The one who rubbed my back while I paid my dues to the porcelain gods in the iahMae bathroom, who taught me how to put on mascara with one hand while I brushed my teeth. You were the first person I'd ever met that personified the word free, and I wanted nothing more to be more you and less me. You loved me like I was made of pink tourmaline when I felt like glass and proximity. I didn't get it, but I was grateful. And on days when I'm really loving myself, I miss you. The gold crackle of your laugh, watching Brenda on at 3 a.m., the way you always reiterated, that's my sister, not my friend. It kills me that I miss you. You're not dead, but you might as well be. Like you're somewhere floating in another ether, and no matter how ardent my desires may be, I'll never get back to you, and you'll never get back to me. I miss you. I miss you. And I'm still hoping that you miss me too. This is the part where both will be heard. Our flowers must die, our sorrow will sing. This is the part where I pay for my sins. I know I am house. I know that home is. And I have this last little piece called Satisfaction. And it was commissioned at the matriarch dinner at Charleston Food and Wine earlier in the year. And they really gave me free rein, but when I really started to think about the women that we were honoring that night, and how special they were, not just to my childhood, but to their own families. I started thinking about the women in my family, and the one thing that they all have that I don't have is that ability to cook. I didn't get that. I did not get that. I can make food edible. I cannot cook the way that they can. So this piece was written for those women, but also written for the women in my family who made me understand the spirit of cooking. And again, it's called benefaction. The first time I ever prayed, it was at a kitchen table. God bless the hands that prepared the food. Thank you for the love in them, the love that labors, cradles cheek and ladle, seasons and pinches with senses I could sense what didn't need to be explained. I knew something greater than I existed, and we needed to get things. It made sense while we gathered. Placed hand in hand, all cyclical movement, heads bowed, giving reverence to the energy coursing, the palms of another, reminding us that we too, like good food, are warm and filling, that we are worthy of being warm and full, and a full life requires warm bodies to break bread with glad and sincere hearts to remind us that we are blessed. Blessed to be able to call upon a name for nourishment and have that call be answered, to share that blessing with others, to know how it feels to be truly loved. And so we gather, a recognized ritual passed from hand to hand by those chosen to lead. And before we partake, we give. Praise be to the chefs, and praise to the spirit of nourishment that moves through them, that my grandmother named God, and we respected by cleaning our plates. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Aisha.
She encouraged me to sit with the land around me because my parents live on parish property. And I started to feel and think about how the land that I was living on was the same land my grandparents walked. My grandmother, who had died 5 years before I was born, had harvested broom fields there. What it meant to touch objects that she had touched. What did it mean to walk outside and see the same red hawk over and over? Who did the hawk know that I didn't know? Had the hawk lived? I don't know how long hawks live. So I'm like, does the hawk know my grandma? But it, that kind of curiosity. And as a kid, I watched Ghost Rider a lot. Anybody remember Ghost Rider? Yeah? It was good. Excuse my language. It's good shit. But Ghost Rider, you walk outside, or I'd walk outside with my notebook, and I'd have a little notepad, and I'd just look at this guy. My parents thought it was so weird. I'd just look at this guy and I'm trying to write down messages from some other where. During this therapeutic thing that I was going through with this person who's also a poet, I was encouraged to write letters to my grandmother and to write letters to ancestors who had passed on before me. And then I added this piece that's kind of strange, but it was let them write back. And then I learned that Rousseau Clifton did a lot of automatic writing. And so I followed that path and said, okay, I'm gonna keep my hand to the page and see what comes out. And then taking that language and crafting it further into poems. And all this time, while I'm working on something that makes no sense to me logically, I'm in a small group of meeting with people over Zoom with Kayla and other artists around South Carolina. And we're talking about what we're making during the pandemic. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it feels good, the music's there, and I'm gonna just keep following it. And so I'm happy to share with you some poems from that project. I have to say, because I'm in Charleston, that the cover art is from Fletcher Williams III, who has art hanging right now, I think, at the International African American Museum. The first poem I want to share. Across places around my neck, I am strapped at the black river's right shoulder, remembering my grandpa holds up for anything but church. My purple head begins to feel cold as purging, parched. I ask for water, he gives me water and rice, says to repeat after him. I am fly from At dusk, gleaming marigolds gathered beneath my feet singing, we were stolen, shipped across the Atlantic. Invasive is a word I heard, stolen. Thrash, 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 and we speak in blue. Spending that time with the tools in the land, I also began to realize that I grew up down the street and around the corner from the plantation land where my ancestors, including my granddad, who I grew up with, were sharecroppers. And before that, were enslaved. And so what did it mean for him to have come around the corner and begin to build on top of marshland so he could build a house and have a family there? And you just have to know my granddaddy to be, I'm like, you did this? My granddaddy was wild. He was a wild character. When I look back, I think about the ingenuity and the courage. And I think about also his willingness to make a geography with my grandmother and what Black geographies hold and what they teach us. On what I believe it's Captain McKittrick calls demonic grounds. Granddaddy's tools. I would watch us tangible reminders of the past in Georgetown County, the native, conscious of the history of Georgetown County, land of live oaks and Spanish moss. Its long, ripe rope, children running around the church steeple on a red brick porch, covered in crimson suede, the purple sky like someone built it around Bethel. Bethel is still there. It's a family church, and we just discovered this past Sunday. I don't attend that church or any church at this point in my life, but my cousin was visiting, and she went in there and found my brother had engraved his name in one of the pews when he was a kid. And I thought that's the kind of way we were here in the pews. Thresh Hold. I'm going to read the titular piece for the book, what their word was, and continues to be even beyond their time here in this book, and this poem came out. Thresh Hold. Flooding in now, I rest so I can harvest new worlds, a ready net so still. Without rest, I cannot hear my grandma Lizzie and my grandma Thelma. Without rest, I cannot hear my Aunt Carolyn composing for her Lord. I cannot hear my Aunt Angie cussing angels while guiding me across memory waters. I am learning what real power is. A year ago, I wouldn't have felt our bright red, black, green chords of spirit calling. Women in my family have dropped dead one day, and the family kept right on working. I rest like I have tomorrows growing on a vine outside. I rest like a horned owl. My ancestors turned into machines by rice is booming in Georgetown, sale extravaganza. I rest beneath my grandma Lizzie's oil-dressed magnolia, painted white and green at the trunk. I risked surrender to her dark sachet. West Africa caught my granddaddy silenced by the brain. Here's the cosmos I picked from his field of grasses. I say, women in my family have dropped dead one day, purple gowned and waiting for us in the next. your inheritance. His greens reached and sprawled beyond his containers, spilling into all his children's kitchen sinks. His mother and the life in his eyes died when he was 10 years old. Your granddaddy was already all different kinds of food, reaching, spreading, going on and on and on, talking to people he could not see. After college, we walked together on a bike path near my first bachelor apartment. Mom said it was a quick 4 hours away from her. If something happened, she could get to me. She said I was walking too slow. I was watching the wind pick hair from my Labrador's coat. I saw my mother and her feet next to mine, inflamed like her mom's. I was like a child when we got back to my apartment. She asked me to take off her shoes. If anybody asks you what's the matter with me, anybody know that gospel song? If anybody asks you what's the matter with me, tell them I'm saved. Yes? It's serious. When I was 11 years old, my mom dropped me at my daddy's family graveyard and drove away. True story. If I kept worrying, it's where I'd end up, she said. Terrified, I hid from my last name like a purple lizard beneath the magnolia leaf. I crossed the road, marking my distance. I put my hands in my pockets, home, running for my life. I didn't want to point. I tried to avoid the engraved D. I tried not to smell my grandma Lizzie's perfume, mothballs rising from the dirt. I listened to the chickadees around me. Today, I drove myself to our family graveyard. With my windows slightly ajar, I watched smoke fleeing from my cigar. I'm sliding in no more struggle. I got out. I poured one for my Aunt Angie.
Yeah, sure.
My poetry mentor always says he wants to meet my mama because she dropped me off like that. He's like, your mom's true. With rice, okra, hard-boiled eggs, and Lord powder. My daddy says if I get out of my car on Nightingale Lane, the folks who own it might shoot. My daddy says never leave the driveway. Glory into my soul. I watch all of my descendants, their faces reflecting me in that photograph. Their eyes are dead, black-eyed Susans. My favorite thing to do since I was at least 10 years old, rapping in church, is to read poems aloud. It's my favorite thing to do. So thank you to the Halsey Institute for having me. Thank you to iahMae for joining me. And thank you all for being here in presence. The Black River, whispered dreams, Spanish moss reached. When we moved back to where my parents grew up, I was eating more rice than I knew existed, and I did not want to be. Up and down. The village is known as Jackson Village Road. I didn't understand home. Why people were speaking to me in home. Stories telling me home. Which of our dead home? I resembled home. So many cousins I had home. And so many questions from God I have never prayed home. As much as I home, wonder, home, 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 home. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm just blown away over that. And again, I invite you to join us in the Hill Galleries for some refreshments and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
What's next?
Snacks and some wine.
What's next in your life?
Oh.
I don't know when I'll see you again, so I gotta catch up and stay abreast.
I'm teaching at Arrowmont. It's a craft school in Gatlinburg next week. It's really cool.
You stay on the move.
I do. Yeah. But yeah, I was telling Marlanda about it. They do have writers there from time to time, so it's a great place to be. I love being in community with artists. But
Well, we look forward to more community engagement with Camilla at the Halsey Institute of Art. Contemporary. Thank you, darling. All right, let me get my cameras out the way.
Think about you select people in it. I'm really just thinking about the interiority of Black life. That's what your work. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Because that's literally,
It's about us and what we're building as people and families and
that's the space that you don't know how much it does for me for you to say that, because that's the space
so
that
important.
I have been trying to get to, so knowing that you hear that and you see that, I need that.
We need that. I need that. Because it's not always to try to be like, it's like, I don't actually care about you. I want to talk about this.
Like, and I tell
I
people all
love
the
that.
time, like, I write about my feelings. Like, I'm a very emotional person. And so, like, the poems for that for me is just, lately, they've just been come away for me to get out my feelings, but also, like, really to let people know that I love them. And I think
Yes, which is,
that,
that's deep work. That's important.
yeah, I
I'm
thank you
looking
for
forward
seeing
to all
that.
you're going to do, and I'm happy for all you are right now. Thank you for being here.
No, I really appreciate you.
Charleston Poet Laureate and Sapient Soul, here we go! Yes, it's that female power! Bam! And then I'm gonna chop it off with the queens of hip hop. About to go see some Esters in a minute. Right down the street.
Okay.
Right down the
Yeah,
street.
no, my plan is to take a walk through. Ain't there food out there?
Should be.
Okay.
But I haven't seen Courtney do her thing in years. Before I go, you both work magic with the pen. To the person who hasn't figured out the pen and the keyboard yet, but them ideas are jumping in their head. Bam, what do you say?
Get it out.
Yeah, do it.
Get it
Pen
on
to
out.
paper.
Exactly.
Pen to paper. Don't edit yourself. Pen to paper.
Oh, that's that key one right there.
Exactly.
Don't edit.
And also, nobody knows what they're doing. We're just doing it.
That's it.
We're just doing it. If it
Well, they
feels
say
right,
the
it's right.
audience will come.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there you have it. From the word masters, they be doing the things, they wordsmiths. They got books and things, they wordsmiths.
The whole song.
Well, I ain't seen both y'all in a while, I can talk shit.